Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me once again for a snippet. And this particular snippet is a little bit different than some that I have been sharing with you recently, but I think it's a very important one. And again, it's a very early one, and it's speaking about specifically France and Italy. This was from volume 4, December 7th of 1902. And in the beginning, it's basically saying that France and Italy just don't even recognize Jesus anymore. And I want you to remember, as we're talking about this, that this is actually from 1902. Now, to us, that seems like a long time ago, but we have to remember that in God's time, everything is all happening at the same moment. And so this is just equally relevant today as it was when he said it, as it was 1,000 years before. However, he is speaking very specifically about France and Italy, who used to be extraordinarily strong Catholic countries. But that, even at that point, was changing, and he was making note of the change, particularly as it pertained to divorce. And that's one of the things he's talking about here. Although I think as we're reading this, we can see so much of what he's saying is exactly what we're experiencing today. So, um, Louisa begins by saying, as I was outside of myself, I found myself amid most thick darkness. In it were thousands of people with that darkness, rendered blind to the point that they themselves could not understand what they were doing. It seemed it was part of Italy and part of France. Oh, how many errors could be seen in France, worse than that of Italy. It seems that they had lost their human reason, the primary endowment of man, which distinguishes him from the beast. And I'd just like to stop there for just 1 second, and just as a reminder to us that God has given us reason, will, memory, and intellect, our reason, um, that places us above every other creature. This is what sets us apart, is our will, memory, and intellect. And so she's saying, our intellect seems to be going by the same wayside. Seems they had lost their human reason, the primary endowment of man, which distinguishes him from the beast. Animals don't have um, reason, they don't have intellect. What they have is instinct, and they make their decisions based on their natural instincts. We're allowed to think things through, to reason things out. And Jesus is, uh, really astounded at our loss of reason and our misuse of this reason. So it said, but he has become worse than the beasts themselves, or worse than the animals. The animals at least follow their instincts, and behave within their nature. He says, but he has become worse than the beasts themselves. Near this darkness, one could see a lamp. I approached it, and I found my loving Jesus, but so afflicted and indignant with those people that I trembled like a leaf, and I only said, Lord, placate yourself and let me suffer by pouring your indignation upon me. And he told me, how can I placate myself if they want to exclude me from them, as if they were not a work created by me? Don't you see how France has cast me away from herself, considering herself honored in no longer recognizing me? And how Italy wants to follow France, as there are some who would give their souls to the devil in order to win that point of forming the law of divorce, after they tried so many times and were left crushed and confounded. Instead of placating myself and pouring my indignation upon you, I suspend you from the state of victim, because after my justice has tried several times, using all of its powers, so as not to give that chastisement wanted by man himself. And in spite of this, he still wants it. It is necessary for justice to suspend the one who holds it back and to let that chastisement fall. Jesus is talking to Luisa, that Luisa has been holding back these chastisements. He said, and Luisa says, Lord, if you wanted to suspend me for other chastisements, I would easily have accepted, because it's right that the creature would conform to your holy will in everything, but to accept it for this evil most grave, my soul cannot digest this suspension. Rather, invest me with your power and allow me to go into the midst of those people who want this. While saying this, I found myself with them. They seemed to be invested with diabolical forces, especially one of them who seemed enraged. As though wanting to turn everything upside down, I spoke and spoke, but could barely manage to cast a few glimmers of reason into him, making known to him the error they were committing. After this, I found myself inside myself with sufferings extremely scarce. And so Jesus is wanting, to let his um, gift of intellect, of reason, to lead man, to take hold of man, to bring him to his senses. But he said, they've lost their minds. They've lost their minds. They've lost their reason that I had given to them. And so this is what we're looking at today. I always say things to me look like they're upside down and backwards. Everything is kind of crazy. It's upside down and backwards. Um, uh, you know, Gender reorientation and um, same sex marriages and all of these things. And of course, Europe has been on the edge of this, particularly France and Italy, for some time. And so Jesus is telling us, even back then, he was trying to um, alert Luisa and alert the rest of us, because he knew that these were going to be written, that she was the secretary of the divine will, to let us know. So, one of the things I want to encourage you with today is not to discourage you about France and Italy. We can clearly see that there's a lot going on there, destroying churches, destroying um, civilization as we know it, the foundation of civilization, which is the family. But what I was struck by, really, as I read this, was the fact that it was written in 1907 as a reminder to me that God sees all things, all time, all at the same time. It's all happening at the same time to him. And so God, in his wisdom, understands infinitely better than we ever could what's happening, why it's happening, and what has to happen in order to bring things back in order. And so, one of the things that, of course, we know is that we have to pray, we have to fast, we have to and partake in the sacraments, we have to keep our will aside and live in the divine will and do as Jesus wants us to do, because um, for all that we can do, all of these acts, each little act, day by day, helps to enlighten, to send graces to people, and helps to hold back. The chastisements may not be able to be eliminated, but they can be mitigated. And so I want us to live in hope and want us to live in understanding of our role in what we're doing, and to continue to do our acts in faith, in trust, in a steady, firm foundation of the divine will and all that it gives us and all that it promises. So, thank you so much. I wanted to say a big shout out to all the subscribers. We have reached over 1,000 subscribers, and this has been what, about 4 months that we've done this, and the people who are working with me here and helping me, thank you so much. If anyone would like to join our team, if anyone's interested in doing any part of any kind of this work, this is a ministry that's done out of love. It's not for profit. It's not for, although we do have expenses. Um, uh, and I just really sincerely want to thank all of you for watching the videos, watching the snippets, commenting, encouraging us as we go along, and for the 1,000 subscribers. And we are growing exponentially at this point. So thank you, thank you, thank you. God bless you. To God be the glory. He has really been the instrument that has created and pushed all of this. So I thank you. God bless you. Uh, Good night, and we'll see you next time.